So today I'm sharing with you 10 different ways that you can transform ornaments that you probably already have without spending a whole lot of money and give your Christmas tree a whole new look. So I originally had this bright colored red and this bright green on my tree when the kids were younger. It was a more playful, more whimsical look, and I wanted to change things up, but I wanted it a little more sophisticated, but still keeping some of that whimsy. What I decided to do was go with a color palette that would coordinate with the colors in my family room now. So we're bringing in some of the hot pink because that's one of my colors. We have the teal, of course. If you've seen my mantle and built-ins video, you will see the big transformation that I did there this year, as well as I wanted some of this deep burgundy so that, it just feels a little more Christmas. And when I started looking into buying all new ornaments, I thought, oh my goodness, that's way too much. I'd rather put that money into gifts for my grandchildren than spend it all on Christmas decorations. So I knew a few things that I had up my sleeve that I could do to transform some ornaments. And that's exactly what I did. I took all the ornaments that I already had and gave them a whole new look. So the flocked or velvet look is so popular right now. So what I did was take some of this velvet that I also cut into strips to make my bows, and we covered an ornament with it. There are other ways of getting that velvet look as well, and I'll show you that right now. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to cut a circle out of some velvet fabric and then take a needle and some heavier weighted thread, like upholstery thread or even like a dental floss would work, because you're going to need to pull this tight, so you need something strong. And what you're going to do is just put the needle in, bring the needle back up and in and up again, creating a gathering stitch or a basting stitch all around the edge of the fabric. Then you're going to, once you get it sewn all the way around, you're going to place your ornament inside, and this is where we're going to pull it nice and tight. You're going to need to kind of keep adjusting those stitches as you go along, because we're trying to minimize as much puckering as possible. Now, it's not 100% impossible to get all the puckers out. There are going to be some gathering, but you want to try to smooth it out and get it as nice and tight as possible. Once you've pulled it all nice and tight, take your needle and you're going to just do a couple of stitches to lock all of that in place. And then add a couple dabs of hot glue around the edge, and don't get your fingers in it and burn them like I did, but just place that glue underneath there and squish your fabric up into it. From there, you want to take the top of the ornament and flare out all of those prongs. Add some hot glue and place the top back in place, covering all those stitches. Another way to get a velvet look is by taking chenille yarn and gluing it around the entire ornament. Cut off your excess, and there you have it. You have a velvet ornament. Now, it's not exactly that flocked look, but it's very, very pretty. And it's actually, I think it's a little more sophisticated. Decoupage is another fun way to add some beautifulness to your tree. They look hand painted when they're done, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So for this transformation, I'm starting with a dark red ball. So if I try to put the decoupage paper, the napkin, over the top of this, you're going to see that red through. So I'm painting it first in a light color. I let that dry. While it's dry, we're going to start cutting out or ripping out some of the roses from the napkin that I have. So I just took a wet paintbrush just with water, and then you just lightly tear each one of those roses out, and then it just places on the ornament much better. So for a decoupage medium, I like to use the Dixie Belle's Clear Coat Satin. It dries nice and it doesn't stay tacky, but you could use any form of decoupage medium that you have. And then you're just going to start placing each one of those sections wherever you would like them to go. With the smaller sections, you get less puckering. The bigger the section, you're going to have more puckering. But you could do this with fabric or napkins or wrapping paper, tissue paper, anything that you have in the pattern that you want to add to your tree. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I absolutely love doing paint pour. And that is a super quick and easy. Well, dry time in there, it takes a little bit of time, but actually getting the paint on the ornaments is super fast and gives you a really beautiful custom look. Now for these ornaments, you want to get some sort of something to rest these ornaments on. You take the top off, and since we're doing a paint pour, we need some place for that paint to go. So you're going to mix it with your pouring medium, or you could get pre-mixed acrylic poured paint as well. But I like to mix Dixie Belle with some Dixie Belle gloss to create a pouring medium. So then I add it all to a cup and we just pour it over top of the ornament. And that's it. You kind of just keep pouring until you get the colors where you want it. Right now, there's just a lot of the same color. So I continued to let it run a little bit and more of that white started coming out. So now I added some metallic paint in with some flat paint or chalk based paint, and then some white to give just a little bit of contrast. I've seen this done with red and green, and it kind of turns out muddy. So you have to kind of experiment with which colors you want to use. Gold and white looks very pretty, but I think it makes a great addition to my tree and looks, like I said, very sophisticated and expensive, and that's the look we're going for. I picked this beautiful butterfly brooch up a while ago. I think it was from an estate sale or thrifted somewhere. Have you been in thrift stores and you see all that costume jewelry and you think it's gorgeous, but what would you do with it? Well, adding it to your Christmas tree is a phenomenal way to add a little bit of glitz, a little bit of glamour, and a bit of that vintage feel as well. So to start this particular project out, I took a piece of cardboard and cut it out the same size as the picture that was in there originally. I added some of that clear coat satin to the cardboard and then placed my velvet over the top. I'm using velvet as a background, but you could use any fabric that you like or even paper. And then just cut around the excess. I'm taking the brooch and I'm just poking it through the cardboard and the fabric. And then I'll just place a little bit of glue on the back to hold everything nicely into place. And I took a little piece of felt, but you could use scrap fabric, any sort of thing, just to hold everything in place. And a couple little dabs of hot glue at the bottom of the brooch holds it in place. A few more dabs of hot glue on the inside of the frame, and then pop that back in there. Add some more glue to glue the original back on the back of the frame. It's so pretty. You can pick up these vintage pieces in estate sales and whatnot all the time. So I'd be looking out for any jewelry that you may not wear, but would look really pretty on a tree. I have had these small picture frames in my stash for a while. You find them in thrift stores all the time. But with the addition of these beautiful Christmas prints, they turn into awesome Christmas ornaments. You're going to want to grab some sort of small frame. Like I said, I had these in my stashed for a while, and I've been kind of collecting them through the years. They're in thrift stores all the time. You can pick up just these little tiny frames. These just happen to be little vintage ones. Don't worry about what is inside because that's not going to matter. So once I took the back off, I noticed that the mat of that picture was actually painted on. So we're going to have to remove the glass, but that's perfectly fine. I printed some prints out. I used Graphics Fairy to find the prints and then added a little bit of that clear coat satin around the edge of the star and added just a little touch of glitter so that it looked nice and cute. But this to me looks like one of those vintage postcards that I think are just darling and add so much beautifulness to my tree. Add a little hanger and a bow, and you have the perfect ornament. This next ornament brings a little bit of a modern feel to your Christmas tree. These are just inexpensive canvases found from the Dollar Tree with a little bit of artwork turned into something absolutely gorgeous. So for this ornament, I'm using little mini canvases, but you could use pieces of wood, you could use pieces of really heavy cardboard, watercolor paper, anything like that. I painted a base color first and then took a palette knife and added the other colors for the background. I take that same palette knife and some joint compound, and I'm just creating some angel wings. I have a couple different styles that I'm doing today. I didn't quite know which one I wanted, but I also didn't want them all to be exactly the same, but you could do yours all the same. You could also do much more subtle colors in the background if you wish. Of course, this is my color palette, so I just kind of was rolling with it. Once you create the wings, you add the little head in there and then the body and then a little place for where the arms would go. I'm now going to paint everything after it has dried really well. I painted it white first and then went over it with an off-white. And then take some gold gilding wax just on the raised points and add just that little bit of shimmer. Add a little gold bow and a hanger, and you have yourself a gorgeous little angel ornament. You could create anything with this texture art. I just like the angels and their abstractness. I absolutely love the look of vintage ornaments, but they're kind of hard to find as well as a little bit pricey. So I gave my ornaments that vintage look with some glitter. For that vintage look, I'm starting with one of the ornaments that already have glitter on them, but I want to add some color to it. So I'm going to add some stripes with some paint first, and that'll act as the base or undertone to the glitter that I put over the top. I took another white ornament and I'm creating some stripes on here. And then another one was blue to begin with. And so I just added some white stripes to that. And I'm actually doing several colors on here, a little blue and a little pink, a little white, or a little iridescent. But and then a little of the teal blue on those swirls. It looks like a little piece of blue peppermint, doesn't it? And just add some decoupage medium, add your glitter of your choice, and have fun with this. Now your glitter is going to get everywhere, and there still needs to be a little bit of cleanup that I need to do when it dries more, but they are so darling. I just love them. It gives me just a touch of that vintage feel. I am still going to be searching out for some true vintage ornaments, but until then, I think this gives me just a little bit of that look. If these ornaments have inspired you in some way, feel free to hit that like button or leave me a comment below. Let me know, how would you transform your Christmas tree? Transforming your ornaments with a hand-painted design gives a super high-end look. So the first thing you want to do for these ornaments is base in your background. Now, if you had the background color that you already wanted, you could just go ahead and start painting. But I wanted to do roses on here, some kind of abstract looking roses. You could pick whatever design that you would like, or whatever kind of flower or bird or whatever that you think you could do fairly quickly and on something small. Because it is definitely a smaller scale. So I'm just adding some rosebuds and a cluster at the bottom, and or full out roses, and then some rosebuds that come up and out. Took a little teal blue and added in some leaves and a little white to just kind of accent and make everything pop. From there, I added a clear coat after it dried, and I have a perfect little ornament. I think she's just darling. I can't wait to do some more of these this year. Adding molds to your ornaments makes them look extremely expensive. Now I'm using two different types of molds. One mold I got off of Amazon, and it's actually meant for cake decorating, and the other one is a redesign with Prima mold. IOD makes a mold as well, and I'm using fast drying casting resin to create the molds. I tried using some hot glue, but I kept getting pockets, and they just little holes in the glue, so it didn't work out as well. But if you take these out of the mold while it's still warm, they are pliable. So that's why I'm taking them, shaping them around the ball, and taping them in place until they cool. Once they cool, I glue them on with some E6000, and then I'm ready to paint. So I'm painting over the entire thing and doing a swirly motion to make sure I'm getting into all of the cracks and crevices. And I'm using a chalk-based paint. And then this one, I actually added a little metallic paint over the top of it. And then to accent all of those molds, I took a little gold gilding wax and just accented it just ever so slightly. Give it more of that elegant feel. What do you think? Would you do some molds? I think they're so fun. I did another one with some nutcrackers from my grandkids' tree. They came out so stinking cute. So if any of these ideas inspired you to transform some of the ornaments that you already have, or maybe you can pick up some thrifted ones from the thrift store. As I always say, the things you see in a thrift store, don't let the color deter you from picking them up. The color is easily changed with several different things that you may have seen in this video today. Let me know in the comments below if there's any of them that you think you might try this year. The most important thing with these transformations is thinking outside of the box. Don't be limited by what you already see in front of you. You may have ornaments that you have in your stash that, are chipped or aren't looking the best. So those are perfect candidates, whether they're plastic or they're glass. Either one can be transformed to give a whole new look. Just find some ornaments that inspire you and let your creativity go wild. I hope you've enjoyed this video today, and I hope you will join me in the next one. Bye-bye, y'all. Have a very Merry Christmas and a very blessed day.